Hello everybody, Tall Paul here with Left-Handed Knife Reviews, and today we're going to be reviewing the Civivi Odium, model number C2010D. Let's get right into it. First up with our facts and figures, this is going to be a 2.65 inch blade in D2 steel running on bearings. The scales are made out of G10 and are affixed to stainless steel liners, and the handle measures right in at 3.5 inches. At the time of the review, this knife sells for $52.70 on Blade HQ. Alright, I'm going to put a couple items on the table as the actual dimensions of the knife will appear on the screen. First up, we have our Dixon Ticonderoga pencil, followed by our Civivi Elementum, and we will throw up our cold steel Tough Light. Alright, next up, we will talk about Larry and my experience while using the knife. Alright, the Odium was fun to use. The G10 is textured, so it isn't super slippery. The size of the handle gave just enough room for us to hold the knife a couple of ways comfortably, even though it was a little tight. The deploy can be hit or miss with the flipper tab or the opening hole, and it has a good lockup. The knife overall was pleasant to carry for review. Alright, let's take a look at what the Odium succeeds at. This is a small knife, but the Ergos are pretty good. Larry and I both have big hands, and the knife definitely didn't feel as small as it was in our hands. We can get a decent grip on it with all 4 of our fingers using the finger choil, and not using the finger choils, the pinky does slip off the back just a little bit. And then with the chef's knife hold, absolutely no problem with the size of the knife whatsoever. Also, there were a couple things that definitely elevated the Ergos. The jimping along the spine of the blade extends down a good amount, so it feels like you have a good amount of control when using the finger choil. The finger choil is also a very good size. I was able to get my finger in there, and I didn't feel like I was going to run it up against the blade at any point. This was also a very low scare factor blade, and it was especially nice considering we could conceal the whole thing in our hand quite well. Next up, let's talk about what the Odium struggled with. As mentioned before, the deploy is really hit or miss. Somewhere between the flipper tab not being a big enough size, the detent not being dialed in as well as it could be, and the opening hole being awkward, there's definitely something that causes the knife to fail to deploy more often than it should. The opening hole itself is in a fairly awkward spot as it runs right up against the scale for both left and right-handed individuals. So getting your finger in there to use it, should you want to use it, is very difficult. After using the knife for a while, you definitely get a hang of opening it with the flipper tab. Throw a little wrist in there and it definitely pops open, but it will still fail on you every once in a while, and it is quite an annoyance, especially coming from other Civivis where you hit that flipper tab and every single time it pops open like clockwork. Next up, we have our points of note. Points of note are things that fall between successes and struggles, but we feel should be mentioned. Pocket clip is a deep carry pocket clip. There is no space on this knife to affix a lanyard to it. The G10 is textured, but it's a very mild texturing, which for us was very nice, but for somebody looking for an extra, amount of grip out of it, it really does not lend well to being super grippy. And last up on points of note, just the size. The size is definitely what we'd classify as fun size. It's a smaller package, but it definitely was an enjoyable knife. All right, now for everything that's left, the part of the review we talk about everything left-handed. This is a flipper tab opening knife, which is going to give you an identical experience as a left-handed individual as you would a right-handed individual. The opening with the thumb hole is equally as bad for both left and right-handed people. The scale goes over the hole on both sides, and the cutout is equally as small for left-handed and right-handed people. This points to Civivi really not anticipating people opening this knife with this hole at all. I think they intended for this to open with the flipper tab and the flipper tab alone, and that hole is for design purposes. You have a two-way reversible pocket clip, so you can carry this left or on the right side. This is a liner lock knife, so you're going to experience some of the normal liner lock issues. This is a good liner lock for lefties. Nice little bit of texturing and just enough space for you to be able to manipulate the liner with the tip of your thumb. So really no issues there. Let's talk about our recommendations and final thoughts. We recommend the Civivi Odium for people who are looking for a small, fun budget knife. At $50, this knife is small. Let me put another knife back on the table, the Civivi Elementum. These two knives are almost priced identically. This is a 2.9 inch blade, this is a 2.65 inch blade. If you're looking for a knife this size, then yes, we definitely recommend the Odium for both left and right-handed individuals. If you're a right-handed individual or somebody who's not worried about the carry on the Elementum, it's definitely a good jump for a knife like that. But if you're looking for something with a low scare factor, a smaller blade, or something that conceals very easily, this is definitely a great way to go. If you are sitting with something like this, the Cold Steel Tough Light, smaller knife, smaller blade, and you're looking to just bump up in quality, but not necessarily bump up in size, this is a really great jump. At the end of the day, if you spend the $50 or so on this knife, you're not going to be disappointed. As long as you know going into it that you are getting a small knife and all the things that come with it. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe for more great knife content. We'll see you next time.